Hey everybody, I'm here with one of my friends, Pete. He lives out in Nashville. He used to live in San Francisco, moved out to Nashville 4 or 5 years ago, probably 5 years ago now. He purchased a house with his wife, Brianna, and they have a granny flat in the back. So not necessarily a co-buy, but they have really good experience with being first-time Airbnb guests. And today, we're just going to ask Pete about his experience running and owning an Airbnb. And a big question a lot of people have, a lot of our co-buy groups, is around getting a property manager for an Airbnb. The pros, the cons, the price, the experience. Is it better to do it yourself and save the money, or is it worth it to get a property manager? So maybe Pete, you could tell us a little bit about the Airbnb space you have and kind of your first conversations with your wife about whether or not you guys wanted to manage it yourself or get a property manager.
Sure. Yeah. We live in Nashville. We bought a house, did a renovation project, and decided to build this garage apartment in the backyard, carriage house, because we had some friends in town who we knew were renting out the garage apartment and essentially paying their mortgage and then some. And so we decided it'd be worth the investment. It's a 2-story garage. It's got a single parking spot for us on the lower level and some living space next to it and 2 bedrooms upstairs. So it's like a 700 square foot 2-bedroom apartment, full laundry, awesome. Kitchen, bathroom, shower. It's got everything. Ultimately, it's also nice to put family out there too, so they're not all in our space. It's a nice little healthy boundary for when my mother comes to visit, and my mother-in-law. And but we did build it to generate some revenue. And initially, my thought was I could manage this. I have some part-time work. I'm a full-time dad and I have some time on my hands, and I thought this seems like an easy project for me to do. So first lesson learned was it took me forever to get this building permitted. Nashville is probably a little stricter than most cities when it comes to getting a short-term rental permit. So the process is arduous and painstaking, and I had to gather all these documents, alert all the neighbors, do all this stuff, and essentially just kind of drag my feet on it. I ended up getting the permit on my own. It took me maybe 3 months to get my act together. And those 3 months are anywhere between, $10,000 to $12,000 of lost revenue.
Wow.
I could have paid a property manager as sort of part of their onboarding package to go and get that permit for me for a couple grand. So
that's huge.
It was, just the dumbest DIY project I've ever undertaken. It's like, it's so clear in hindsight that I just wanted to save money and do it myself. And I lost money doing it myself. So
I think that's a big takeaway, and one that I didn't know about, because a lot of people have questions about the application process for short-term rentals in the city they're interested in. And I didn't realize property managers will actually take that on for you.
Totally.
I mean, to me, that just seems like incredibly worth it just for that point alone.
It's a no-brainer, especially in hindsight, but even like I should have seen that coming. So the reason I didn't, though, is that I had planned to manage it myself. I only realized once I started talking to a manager that I just wasted a bunch of money and time. So I managed the first 3 bookings by myself. Pretty decent experience, no major issues, but I had like severe anxiety whenever somebody was in the place, because I have 2 young boys. I go to bed at like 9, and I couldn't sleep because I thought, like the auto locks aren't going to work, at night when these people come home from the bars, they can't get into their place. I'm the point of contact. I can't like put my phone on airplane mode and actually forget about it. And I was like, this is awful. I don't want this. And shortly thereafter, the third booking, COVID hit and shut everything down. I lost a few $1,000 in bookings, which is pretty minimal compared to a lot of people I know. But Airbnb threw us a bone trying to help out people who lost big bookings, but essentially didn't really get the listing back up and running until COVID cooled off. And by the time that happened, I was like, this is not something I want to do on my own. I'm happy to pay, basically a convenience fee so I can not even pay attention to what's happening over there in the garage apartment. So I ended up finding a manager through a referral. I don't know that I intentionally went with like a smaller local property manager who's been in Nashville for a while versus like a big name brand company like Vacasa. But I just found the guy, had a conversation with him. He seemed like he knew what he was doing, using technology to maximize bookings and market the place. And it just felt like the right move. His commission is 18%.
Gotcha. 18% on what? On revenue or net or?
18% on its rental fees plus cleaning fees.
Okay.
So if he'll charge me to restock incidentals or consumables. He'll charge me if there's a maintenance issue, which hasn't been an issue. It's 18% after. Basically after Airbnb cashes him out, then he charges 18% on top of that. So
got you.
That
seems pretty worth it.
I mean, I would probably do it for 20 or 25 because I'm not doing anything and money is coming into my checking account every month. So like, sure, if I needed that extra 18%, I could hustle. I could find a cleaner, which is impossible, damn near impossible if you're trying to do like, if somebody's checking out, you're trying to check somebody in that same day and you just happen to need a cleaner on that Sunday. Every other cleaner in town is cleaning a house on Sunday. You're screwed. People will ghost you. You need to have a legitimate business you need to pay them well. They need to know that you're going to give them consistent business. So like a private owner DIYing this thing it's going to be a challenge. And your other option is clean the place on your own. So it's like, I don't even know if I did all this work, I don't know if the 18% savings it would probably be a wash because
totally.
And
because of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something you said that was interesting that I didn't really think about is a property manager who does this full time, right? They're incentivized by the frequency of bookings and how much you can get for your place. So they're actually going to maximize your ROI because it benefits them as well. So even though you're paying them 18%, they know all the tricks of the trade. They're very efficient with marketing or responding and ratings, that you're probably making up that 18% by having it filled more, by having higher ratings, by being able to charge a premium. Just in itself is kind of what I'm thinking. Maybe it's not exactly 18%, but
I think that's right. If I was doing this on my own, my occupancy rate would probably be significantly lower because I don't know how to use the technology they're using to adjust the pricing to what the market is, is getting. And so you're right. They're a lot more savvy with what's going on and can maximize your occupancy.
Yeah. that's really good to know and to think about for the co-buy groups out there that are wondering like, oh, there's four of us or three of us that own this home. Like one of us can manage the bookings, the other one will be responsible for, like calls that you get from a guest, and the other person's responsible for managing maintenance and cleaning.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound like that's worth it, especially when you consider how much your own time is worth.
Right.
Yeah, to me, just the simple things that you outlined, I mean, briefly in the last 5 minutes, make me think that a property manager is a no-brainer. What would you recommend to like a first-time co-buy group who's never Airbnb'd anything as a guest or as a host? What would you recommend them looking into? What would be like your first step that you'd say they should do?
You mean like in terms of where to buy or what to do once you decide where you're buying?
More or less in terms of trying to find a good property manager. I know you said you got yours through a referral. That's probably the most logical place to start, but I'm not sure if you did any other searches or, vetted anybody else.
Yeah. I talked to a couple other guys, and Nashville's kind of got this bustling short-term rental scene. So like I'll even get mailers from property managers who are just like this guy I was working with, who just dropped something in my mailbox saying like, I'm taking on new properties right now. So if you're looking to operate an Airbnb in a town that's kind of bursting at the seams like Nashville, you'll probably have a lot of options with a quick search. And just don't go with the first person you talk to. Don't ever make a decision unless you have a few different options. It's kind of like contractors in this town. Like there's so much construction going on. If you tell them you want a new kitchen, they're just going to pick an arbitrary number because one, they can turn it down. They don't need your work. And two, if you say yes to this astronomical number, they'll be like, okay, we can make that work. So you'll get 3 different bids, and all the numbers are all over the place because none of them are based in the actual cost. It's just like what the market can bear. So in terms of searching for a property manager, I would just try to get some referrals, call some references, ask them for phone numbers of some of their clients, and like talk to real people who are working with these guys.
Got you. And the property manager referral that you got, maybe because it was word of mouth, somebody that you trusted that recommended them, you didn't do a ton of vetting of them, but I'm curious, did that property manager send over like any sort of like documentation on like his track record or anything like that?
Yeah.
Or like his other listings? And what are some of the key things that you remember looking at?
Yeah, I mean, he put together a big old packet describing his business and his strategy. He had like a board of what is that called? A board of directors on his company that would like quarterly meet and review upcoming calendar events, like big weekends in Nashville where all the bookings kind of book up, how to set prices in advance for these big weekends like March Madness, playoffs, basketball, hockey, all the big events that they know are coming. So they would look out 6-8 months in advance and adjust the pricing accordingly, so somebody wouldn't come in and get a deal on a big rental weekend. They had
I was going to say just that too, just knowing how to forecast around a calendar and big events, like to maximize ROI. Again, that 18% that you're paying, it's probably getting made up by having somebody who is like actively adjusting your rental rate.
I mean, until you have a host account and a listing that's live on Airbnb, you have no idea how many variables there are for booking your house. Like you can open up your calendar 6 months in advance. You can change the pricing daily. You can have, it's like fantasy basketball team. Okay, you can set it on auto draft and not make any subs or trades or whatever, and just sit back and lose, guaranteed. Or you can like be on it every day, like in between sending emails, making changes, and like micromanaging the shit out of it if you want to maximize your output. So
That's
not
a good analogy.
Yeah. So I'm like, I could do this. I would probably do it poorly for a year or two till I figured out what I was really doing. I would make less money. I would save some money, but like I'm too old for that. I'm not interested in like, I want convenience. Okay. I'm a millennial. I'm going to pay for some convenience, and I'm still making a bunch of money. I'm still making my mortgage.
Yeah. That's awesome. One more question I have is, do you know if your property manager, do they only list on Airbnb, or do they list on VRBO and all the other listing sites as well?
They're definitely on VRBO and Airbnb. I think he might be on some other listings, but I don't even know what those are called.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's good to know too. I guess, as an owner of an Airbnb, another pro to having a property manager is that they can list your house across multiple sites and manage those sites that your listing is on too.
I'm not going to make an additional VRBO account and like manage both accounts. It's just a nightmare.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. This is great, Pete. Really good insight. I think, co-buy groups, or just even people that are wanting or thinking about, putting a vacation home on a short-term rental site. This is really good insight. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for including me in what you're doing, Mark.